One last quick reminder before we get into the news. This is our last show for the week as I'm heading out to Chicago this weekend for the big annual Students for Sensible Drug Policy Conference. We'll be back into the full swing of things on Monday. If you'll also be at the conference this weekend, find me and say hello. This episode of Marijuana Today Daily is brought to you by our friends over at Curaleaf, one of the fastest growing multi-state legal cannabis operators in the U.S. with 43 local dispensaries, 12 cultivation sites, and 11 processing facilities serving more than 150,000 registered medical marijuana patients. Check them out over at curaleaf.com. Good morning, Marijuana Nation. It's Wednesday, March 27th, 2019, and you're tuned in to episode 694 of Marijuana Today Daily. I'm your host, Shay Gunther, and I'll be walking you through today's marijuana news and headlines. As always, we have a full and busy day of cannabis news in our hands, so let's jump right into it. Yesterday, lawmakers in the U.S. territory of Guam voted in favor of a bill to legalize adult use marijuana. The bill, which sets up a tax and regulated sales system open to adults 21 years of age and older, passed through the Guam Senate with exactly the number of votes necessary for passage, and now heads to the desk of Guam Governor Lou Leon Guerrero, who is expected to sign it into law. Guam will join the neighboring U.S. territory of the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands in legalizing adult use. The Commonwealth passed adult use legalization through last year. Congratulations to everyone in Guam who helped make that happen. A government panel in Michigan tasked with coming up with recommendations for how the state should regulate marijuana driving is suggesting that no limit be imposed for the amount of THC metabolites a person can have in their body before being deemed unfit to drive a vehicle safely, because that number does not actually tell you if a person is too impaired to drive. The 6-person Impaired Driving Safety Commission was appointed by Michigan Governor Rick Schneider and wrote a report that reads, in part, quote, based on the total body of knowledge presently available, the commission finds there is no scientifically supported threshold of THC bodily content that would be indicative of impaired driving. There is poor correlation between driving impaired and the blood levels of THC at the time of blood collection. Unquote. The report further recognizes that people who consume marijuana frequently have a higher baseload of THC metabolites in their system, even though they are in no way impaired to drive. The 24-page report, which you should open up and read in full yourself, says that police should be trained more to recognize on the road when someone is actually impaired based on their behavior. A refreshingly pragmatic response. We wrap up today's top news and this short week's top stories with a chart, something we don't often do, but will if it's good enough. And this one is certainly that. Marijuana Business Daily has a chart showing the growth in the number of licensed medical marijuana businesses in Oklahoma, broken down by license type, along with how many patients have been added to the state's registered pool, all since August. Oklahoma's medical marijuana program is marked by a lack of any kind of limit on the number of licenses, which helps explain why there are now more than 2,000 licensed cultivators, 1,150 dispensaries, and 580 processors, with just under 70,000 registered patients. And all of those numbers are growing. I think one of the valuable things from a policymaking and social science point of view, at least, about the siloed approach each of the U.S. states is taking with cannabis legalization is just how different each system can be. Oklahoma's no-holds-barred approach is about as far as you can get from New York's tightly regulated and limited program, which will certainly yield lots of interesting data. I'd keep watching this one if I were you. Swing over to Marijuana Business Daily for the chart and for the background context. As always, we have all the news we cover linked to on our website at mjtodaydaily.com and on our Twitter account at mjtodaydaily. Those are our top stories for today. It's time for Marijuana Today Daily Headlines Blitz. Before we blitz out in headlines, let's quickly thank our sponsor, Curaleaf, one of the fastest growing multi-state legal cannabis operators in the U.S., with 43 local dispensaries, 12 cultivation sites, and 11 processing facilities, serving more than 150,000 registered medical marijuana patients. With that many patients, everyone at Curaleaf knows they have a responsibility to doing things right, which is why Curaleaf focuses so much time and energy on education and research and development. When it comes to medical marijuana marijuana, you need to trust that you're getting products that come from a company that holds the highest standards for safety, effectiveness, consistent quality, and customer care. Grab some of that Curaleaf magic for yourself by visiting one of their dispensaries, which you can find over at Curaleaf.com. And while you're over at Curaleaf.com, you can learn more about Curaleaf the stock, which now trades up on the Canadian Securities Exchange under the symbol CURA, spelled C-U-R-A. That's Curaleaf.com. All right, time for the Blitz. The legitimate side of Buzzfeed is a good story up, highlighting a disinformation campaign being waged by President Donald Trump's White House over the supposed lacing of marijuana with the deadly and addictive drug fentanyl. Dan Vergano's story picks up on a briefing that Trump's opioid crisis czar Kellyanne Conway, which should give you all the information you need to know about how unserious Trump is taking this very real opioid crisis, in which Conway, who is a known and frequent liar, said that people were unknowingly consuming fentanyl in a long list of drugs, which included marijuana. When asked to back up that assertion, White House officials pointed to a speech given last year by a government official who cited a now discredited anecdotal report of one instance of fentanyl-laced marijuana from the city of Vancouver. That's what passes for a source from this presidency. Give this one a read today. Herman Lopez over at Vox picks up on another story of the corrupt and ruinous Trump administration getting in the way of progress. This time it's Donald Trump's Justice Department dragging its heels on granting approvals needed for companies to start growing marijuana that can be used for research purposes. We've covered this storyline a few times in the past year or so, as efforts have been made to expand the number of qualified companies allowed to grow cannabis accessible to academic researchers for study. At just about every step possible, the government has slowed down and stymied that process, either at the Department of Justice or the DEA. It's another one I'd open up. Just one of those days today. The Financial Post swings us out of the heavier side of marijuana policy reform into the world of celebrity cannabis branding. The Canadian licensed marijuana company Canopy Growth is buying up a 25% stake in Houseplant, a Toronto-based cannabis company started up by actor Seth Rogen and screenwriter Evan Goldberg. Houseplant has a range of consumer products that will start to go on sale in British Columbia later next month. In a new regulatory filing with the Securities and Exchange Commission, beer giant Molson Coors said that marijuana legalization may have a negative impact on its future sales in the U.S. and Canada. Molson Coors is one of the few alcohol giants to start to hedge into marijuana, with a joint venture announced last year with marijuana company Hexo to explore drinkable forms of cannabis. The Canalog blog is a great piece up, parsing a recent story we've covered here on a trademark conflict between a company in California and another in Arizona over the use of the brand Harvest. I'm a huge fan of the way the Canalog blog covers the industry, and I'd add this one to your list of stories to dive into, if only for the educational take on the ever-complex world of marijuana business branding, trademarks, and state silos. Kyle Yeager has a good write-up of all the action taking place yesterday and today in Washington, D.C. over the proposed SAFE Banking Act, which would afford protections to banks and financial institutions for working with state legal marijuana businesses. This is another storyline we've covered extensively, and Kyle nicely sums up all the important things to know about the hearing being held by the House Financial Services Committee, including video of the actual proceedings. And finally for today, Leafly takes an interesting look at a national deal between the marijuana company Green Growth Brands and the Simon Property Group, said to be the largest operator of retail shopping malls in the country. The deal will have Green Growth Brands deploy their brand 7th Sense CBD in mall kiosks all over the nation. I thought this one was worthy of inclusion for today because it's the first big national push into mall retail by a CBD brand. It also highlights the value that executives with Green Growth Brands, who mostly hail from traditional big box corporate retail, bring to their new company's table, as they were able to leverage pre-existing relationships with the Simon Property Group to land this deal. Those are the headlines and news for the day. I'll be back with you again on Monday morning with another information-packed episode of Marijuana Today Daily. But in the meantime, if you have any stories to share or feedback to give, zip us an email to headlines@mjtodaydaily.com. And while you're clicking around the interwebs, swing over to our Twitter account at MGA Today Daily and visit our website at mgatodaydaily.com to find links to all the news we cover. Thanks to our sponsor, Curaleaf, and to all of our awesome patron listeners for the support that makes this show possible. To join the illustrious ranks of the patron listeners yourself, swing over to our website at mgatodaydaily.com and click on that big blue button at the top of the page that says Become a Patron. I'm your host, Shay Gunther. Thanks for tuning in and starting your day with marijuana today. Today.
One take, Shay. One take.